Hi, it's me, Mary Lynn. Today on the podcast, you'll hear about a bike ride I went on with my son. It was a normal bike ride until we ran into two wild creatures mating with each other. Listen to find out what creatures and how that happened. Oh, also, we watched the movie Green Book. How did they connect? Listen to find out.
What's happening today? What are you thinking about? When you're walking down the street, is your head in a cloud? Don't you want to know what's going on? Let's go! Checking in with Mary Lynn. Checking in with Mary Lynn. Checking in with Mary Lynn. Let's check in with Mary Lynn.
Hi, everyone. It's strange to be an adult and be the person who's in charge of things. I used to think that adults were completely different and responsible and mature. And now the older I get and the more people I'm around that are my age or older, it's exciting because I see them as little kids. I almost, instead of reaching out into the world and going and getting it like you do when you're in your 20s and 30s, there's not a full-on complacency, but there's a settling of ways, of habits, and of a mindset and of certain behaviors. And you see that in people who are in their 40s and 50s, because when you're in your 20s and 30s, you are on the hunt, whether it's for a career or approval or sex or, not that I didn't observe people then, but it's just different because everything is overreaching and codependent. And now when I encounter somebody, it's like, oh, that's what you're like. That's what you've collected. That's how you've chosen to express yourself. It's really interesting. But what I was thinking about more than that is myself as an adult, as somebody who's in charge, as someone who's a parent, who's a wife. And I really love my home life. It drives me nuts. I also love my career. I love being driven by my career, but it's all so I can get back home, even though sometimes being home is frustrating. Because you get to hang out with the people there and it can be unstructured. Sometimes it's easier to be busy. Although my work life's pretty unstructured too. What's up, you guys? So it's nice to have those sweet spots, where it's not my son asking for screen time, or it's not, we have to get ready and go this place, or it's not, okay, brush your teeth, or where there's no agenda, I guess. There's a sweet spot, and it happened this weekend, and it was just nice and easy. And then something completely unexpected happened that was out of my control, which the thing that happened, I'm going to reveal it in the story, but it's not anything crazy. It was nature, okay? It was something involving nature. Listen, I'm just going to tell you what happened. So my son and I, Val, were riding bikes. Yeah, we do that. We were riding bikes like you do in the 70s. And it was in our neighborhood, our suburban neighborhood. And like I said, there's this sweet spot when the air is hitting you and, pushing your hair back, and you've got nowhere to go. And there's nothing like, I've got to get back to do this. There's no pressure. And you're there together, and he's riding ahead of me, and I'm watching him ride ahead of me, and I'm experiencing his freedom. Like I'm seeing him ride ahead of me, and it's exciting because I'm like, look at that dude. He's just going without abandon, riding his bike as fast as he can through the neighborhood. And we encounter some other little boys that are younger than him. And I can see him posturing, and doing a loop around the boys. And I'm far enough away that they have some exchange. I think they might ask him his name or something. And then I see him sort of loop around and try to see where I'm at before he goes around the next corner to see if I'm following him, or maybe he's taking a loop to go back past the boys. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I catch up to him, and he stopped, and he's looking across in this yard, and there's 2 raccoons. This is in the middle of the day, probably late afternoon, and they're right in front of someone's house in their landscaping, and they're following each other. Now I'm reading into this because I know what's going to happen, but they're not as scared as you would think. They're definitely alarmed, and they're sort of, uh-oh, and they're looking right at us. And it's so cool when you get to observe nature and it's not disappearing. Like, we're just sitting there staring at these raccoons. They're staring at us, and they're moving away from us, but not with a panic. You know, they're just sort of, okay, all right, I guess we got to go now. And one of them is following the other. And it was so cool, such a neat experience, and that you don't expect to happen in broad daylight in the suburbs. And I said to Val, tell the dudes, because the other boys were less than a half a block away. They were, shouting distance. We didn't have to shout that loud. We said, hey, raccoon. Hey guys. Hey dudes, raccoon. And so my son tells them, I'm keeping an eye on them, and the kids come down. So we're all across the street from where the house is. So we're a good distance away, but it's just this great show. You're really like studying them and how big they are and how their little hands come out and how they move. And then, there's more, the boys are trying to be cool, but there's more talking and there's more activity. So the raccoons pick up speed and they hit this tree in the next yard, and they start going up the tree, and they're still kind of looking at us. And then we're watching them, and they disappear for a second. And so we move to the left, in which direction, we think they're going. And the boys are saying, do you think they're going on the roof? And I said, yeah, they're probably going on the roof. And this particular roof, once you got to a position across the street facing the roof, you could see most of the roof. There was a good vantage point, is what I'm saying. It was like a clear, flat roof that we could all see from across the street. So at first the boys are like, where'd they go? And I said, guys, they're on the roof. They're on the roof. Come over here. This is the spot. This is the spot to see them. And by the time everyone comes over, because I found the spot, I'm the only adult there. There's probably, these little guys are, Val is 10. I want to say they're 5 maybe, and there's 2 or 3 of them. And then there's one other dude, I think he's like 7 or something. And the one raccoon mounts the other. And I've gotten everybody a front row ticket to this. And I'm just standing there. Oh shit. They're about to get fucking right now. And I've called over all these kids to look. And of course, part of me is like, this is natural. There's nothing wrong. We're watching this wildlife. What are you going to do? And another part of me was a little bit shocked, and maybe it's my responsibility to get them to not stand there and watch. No, it's not even that. It's not my responsibility. It's just a weird thing that it's me and all these little boys watching these raccoons fuck on top of a roof. Oh, God. And, of course, the little ones, what are they doing? Are they fighting with each other? And the one, the precocious one, he's like catching my eye, and I'm like, oh, God, he knows. And I'm just letting them have their own conversation, trying to be invisible. Of course, the only responsible person. You think I would, direct the activity. I was the one directing everybody to look at the raccoons because I'm so excited. And now here we are. And it is just full on thrusting, just a vulgar sort of arching of one body on top of the other. I mean, you could see everything but the exact raccoon penis going in. A jerking motion, their glassy eyes, they don't care who's looking at them. They don't care that they're on someone's roof. They're just going for it. And we watched them for an uncomfortable amount of time. And like I said, they're so close that it's exciting to see an animal. You're seeing an animal in the wild, and real animals. It's not like a little bird or a squirrel that you see all the time. But they are also making sweet love. So it's very weird to be watching them get it on. It seems like a private moment, maybe a curtain or a do not disturb sign, or I expected one of them to go, "Hey kids, get out of here. I'm trying to make a baby with this lady." And also then I started rethinking the fact that they weren't that frantic. I thought they had fucking on their mind, and they were just wanted to get to that above all anything else. That makes me think of human beings in their 20s and a lot of stuff in the media, the way that sex is portrayed, where people direct their lives to the conquest of that and lose their mind because they just want to get to that, or maybe make some bad life decisions because they have that on their mind. Maybe be in view of two humans that they should have been scrambling faster. And they just were like, "Oh man, we're just trying to get to this thing. We didn't expect to encounter these humans." And it was more important to them to get up onto the roof and do this than to be worried about us. By this point, we rode our bikes on a little loop. One of the boys again asked, "What are they doing?" and kind of looked at me, and I finally had to go, I'm not really sure. And then Val and I took a little loop, and Val said, "What were they doing, Mom?" And he's 10, so I'm pretty sure he got it, but he wanted to, really sweet, because he wanted to see what I was going to say, maybe to make sure, or just to see how I was going to respond. And I said, "Well, son, they're mating. And leave it to us to encounter a couple of raccoons on a roof mating, and leave it to us to be surrounded by these other little kids." And it's pretty funny, right, Val? So we loop back around because it's still happening, but we just needed a break from it. And by this time, one of the boys went and got their mom. So the mom is out there, and she hasn't had the whole lead in, the innocence. And she's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Who are you? Why are you standing out here with these boys watching this? And she says, oh my gosh. Well, and I said, "Yep, they're doing something. They're getting busy up there." Really. She says, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't be watching this." And I said, "Maybe we should." And then she gave me this look like I was a sick pervert, which prompted me to give her a look of, I just took the high road and looked like she was disgusting to me. Like, "How dare you?" And I said, "It's nature. Nature in the wild. Nature going wild for us. I think it's great," as I drove my bike away. "Come on, Val, let's go." And then we actually went and got Matt, and we, which took a minute because Matt had to get his bike, and then we drove around the block the opposite way so we could show him the scene of the crime. That's where we saw him. That's the tree they climbed up. Now look, and this was we had already been watching them for I want to say 7 minutes or something. And by the time we got Matt and went around the block, they were still at it. This is a full-on 12 minutes. Wow. How long does it take? Raccoons, this is a focused business. It's not just a quick in and out. This was a real sesh. Oh, and at one point I think, you know what? The mom, she actually did have a sense of humor about it. She said, we should take a picture and let them know. I think she knew the people. It was her neighbor because it wasn't our. And she said, we should let them know that this is happening on their roof, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. And I chose to tell Val that they were mating. And I feel good about that. I think, that's a good amount of information. I can remember being that age, and the concept of sex is just, about it, but you almost don't believe it. It's so completely foreign that you're just like, oh, that's weird. Like, it crosses your mind every once in a while, and you think, what? Could that be a real thing? And then your mind drifts on to something else. So you're aware of it. See, I don't think it's good to over explain. Now, having said that, I'm not exactly sure what's been explained at the school. I know they've had health sessions, and I know they've learned about the organs. And I know that my son comes home like, oh, yeah, Ellen was there today. And he doesn't want to talk about it, and that he knows what it is. I think it's come up before, and I'll say, well, and probably laughing or embarrassed. And I said, well, do you want to know what it is? And he goes, I know, Mom, I know. And we were watching The Green Book, which I hadn't seen, until now. I didn't watch it before the Oscars, but I did read about the hubbub that it was too big and broad and racial stereotypes, and, why wasn't it told from a black point of view? So I was expecting to not like it, and I ended up really liking it because I thought it was about the relationship between the two dudes, the working class Italian white dude and the black, overly educated, brilliant musician. And I thought it was a pretty good character description of these two guys, which is weird because the times, and it was totally over generalized and caricaturish at some points. I don't think that in the movie the working class driver guy, Nick Bellilonga, is that his name? To me, I understand part of the criticism of him being like a white savior or told through the white point of view, but I think part of it, they meant to say this is what the world is like. It's skewed against. But when I watched that film, the bigger thing I got out of it again was the relationship between these two guys, and I did not think that the white dude was his savior. I thought that they did a pretty good job at showing how these two came together and spent time with each other and ended up relating to each other by the end. And the real dudes were friends in real life, but now again, I'm kind of speaking out my ass because I don't know specifically the whole backlash that happened. I'm gonna have to go back and but was the backlash about the guys in real life that the real dude is like a racist? Probably. I mean, they show that in the film. He's a racist dude, but it also shows how they were able to get along with each other. And I don't think that means he's even the best dude. I think this was a version of the story, and maybe I foolishly felt hopeful at the end. It was heartwarming, and it's hard to watch that the world was really that way. And for as whitewashed and generalized as it was, and a little bit garish at times, there's also a component that, when I go through my everyday life, I don't see depictions of that. So to see depictions of these hotels that the Green Book was sending him to, that were colored only allowed, like, that's hard to watch in a modern world. But I think it's important, again, even if it's an overly generalized version of it, I think it's important to see that. And I felt good that my son was watching it. I think it was a little bit too heady for him, not enough car crashes and chases and fights and action. for him. But I think he followed it and saw, wait, like what? This is what the world is like for this guy. And I think he actually maybe to see that type of musician, the caliber of music that he played was a new thing for my son too. We ain't listen to that kind of music in our house. We listen to hip hop and top 40. We ain't that sophisticated. And me personally, I probably veered towards the working class point of view. I don't know. I dip into both because sometimes, I do appreciate the arts. I'm just not that. I'm probably right down the middle in my lifestyle. I come from working class, but I'm also somebody who loves the arts. It's my favorite thing. Anyway, this is going to bring it full circle. I was watching with my son, and this is going to relate to the raccoon story. Watch this. Pow! And there's a brief scene of, again, I thought it was pretty well done because they did it with a light touch, but this image was horrible, but they didn't have to show that much of it. It was just this very stark image of one time, the Don Shirley character played by Mahershala Ali, he brings his driver character to get him through tough situations that may be racially charged. And if you haven't seen the movie, and he gets, like, there are certain places where he plays where he can't, it's really awful, where he can't go to the bathroom at the place where he's at because it's white, and he leaves a show to drive 20 miles to use a bathroom because he's a dignified person and has morals and doesn't believe that he should be sent to the outhouse. It's a really, I really loved the character of Don Shirley, and that was one of the controversies too. Again, I have to go back and read that, but that, the family was not happy with it. Things that were left out factually. And it's like, it's a movie. I wouldn't have known about this dude or this relationship if I had not seen the movie. So, I liked it. So anyway, there was this part where the Don Shirley character goes off by himself at night and doesn't tell his driver, and the police end up calling him, and he goes, and the image that I was bringing up a second ago is of him in the YMCA, but it's like a shower room, and he's naked, handcuffed, sitting on the ground, and there's another dude naked and handcuffed sitting on the ground, and he's clearly been beat up. His face is a little bit bloody and bruised, and they look so sad and so ashamed, and it was, you just see that image and it tells this whole story. And then the cops are standing there, and the driver character, sorry, his name is Tony Lip. I think I was calling him Nick for some reason. Listen, I just woke up. The character's name is Tony Lip, and he comes to rescue him out, and he ends up bribing the police. But when you see this image of the two men, it is just so startling and so sad, because it was this intimate thing, and the fact that they had to go to this public place, and that you imagine that he's a random guy, or maybe it's a guy that he knows from going through the city at another time, and he's sort of lonely and isolated, and he's got to, find this way to have some intimacy and the suggestion of sex. And anyway, my son says, what? Why are they naked, Mom? Why are they naked? Where? I don't think he said, where are they? I think he said, why are they naked together? And I said, well, they're in the steam room at the YMCA. And it was that moment where I chose to not over-explain and say, yeah, they were mating, son. They were making sweet love like those raccoons on the roof. I just said they were in the steam shower. And then I let the moment go past, and I just wasn't ready to explain gay sex to my son right then. And I just let him think that he was being arrested because of race. But I think that image, I mean, you know, my son probably, it's highly suggested that it was this intimate moment, the aftermath of the intimate moment, and I just didn't feel the need to over-explain it. And had he asked me more or pressed me on it, but then, you know, the moment kind of passed, and there we go. Full circle. From Green Book to Raccoons on a Roof. There you have it. Thanks for listening. See you next time.